Welcome to our chilling haunted walking tour of Fayetteville, Arkansas, where history meets the supernatural. Across the country, towns hide places steeped in ghostly lore and paranormal intrigue. In this video, we explore 4 of Fayetteville's most haunted spots. However, there's a twist. Only 3 of these locations are genuinely haunted. The 4th is a tale crafted by us at Wandering Walks of Wonder. As you join us on this journey, your challenge is to figure out which 3 locations harbor real hauntings and which one is our creation. Stick around until the end of the video where we will reveal which of Fayetteville's haunted locations is pure fiction. Today's journey takes us to 4 locations in Fayetteville: the Washington County Courthouse, the Confederate Cemetery, Old Main on the University of Arkansas campus, and the Walker Stonehouse. So, if you dare, let's explore the chilling tales behind Fayetteville's most haunted places. Our first stop takes us to the Washington County Courthouse in downtown Fayetteville. This historic courthouse building was constructed in 1905 and has many ghostly happenings as well as several paranormal lore stories surrounding the building. One of those involves the lady in a Victorian dress. This ghostly figure, often described as a woman wearing a long Victorian-era gown, has been the subject of various sightings over the years. The courthouse, as we said, built in the early 1900s, has been the scene of intense legal battles and tragic events, which could explain the lingering presence of this spirit. Witnesses report that the lady is often seen walking through hallways or up the courthouse stairs, only to vanish suddenly. Some have described a feeling and a drop of temperature or other common signs of paranormal activity when she is near. It's rumored that the woman may have been connected to a trial or incident that occurred in or around the courthouse. Some speculate that she could have been the wife or family member of someone who was sentenced there, and her restless spirit still haunts the location. She's looking for justice or just seeking closure well after the person who she is crying for is long gone. One of the darker legends tied to the courthouse involves a former judge who was known for his unusually harsh sentencing. It earned him the nickname the Hanging Judge. This nickname could have originated from either his reputation for sentencing people to death by hanging or a literal hanging that took place nearby. Though historical records do not specifically identify a judge by that name at this courthouse, the legend has taken on a life of its own. It's said that the spirit of the judge still lingers, especially in the courtroom where he presided. Several courtroom employees and visitors have reported strange phenomena such as the feeling of being watched or the sudden movement of objects like papers or chairs, and many have experienced eerie cold spots that appear out of nowhere. Some even claim to have heard the sound of a gavel striking despite no one in the room at the time. Then we have those horrific-looking jailhouse shadows. Long before Fayetteville built modern facilities, the courthouse also has housed jail cells in the basement. While these cells are no longer in use, stories persist of shadowy figures being seen in the lower levels of the courthouse, especially where the old jail was located. People have described seeing dark, human-shaped shadows darting down the hallways or lingering in the corners. Some speculate that these could be the spirits of former prisoners who were held in the cells, perhaps awaiting trial or even execution from the Hanging Judge. Another common reported occurrence are lights in the building that turn off and on by themselves. Employees have described leaving a room only to return moments later and find the lights either on or off, despite no one else being around. This odd behavior happens in both the older section of the courthouse and in areas that have been renovated, adding to the building's haunted reputation. Our next stop takes us to the historic Confederate Cemetery in downtown Fayetteville. It's not only known for its historical significance, but also for the eerie ghost stories that have emerged over the years. Established in 1873, the cemetery is the final resting place for Confederate soldiers who died during the Civil War, many of whom fell in battles fought here in northwest Arkansas. Given its solemn history, the cemetery has become a hotspot for paranormal sightings and ghostly tales. Here are just a few of the most well-known ghost stories tied to the cemetery. One of the most frequently reported apparitions in the Confederate Cemetery is that of a soldier, often described as wearing a ragged Confederate uniform. He is said to roam the grounds, his face filled with sorrow. Some witnesses claim that he is seen weeping, possibly mourning fallen comrades, or perhaps reflecting on the tragic loss of life during the Civil War. According to local lore, the soldier's ghost is most often spotted near certain graves, where it is believed soldiers from a specific battle are buried. People who visit late at night report hearing faint sobbing sounds or seeing the figure of the soldier standing still, his head bowed as if mourning. But when approached, he either vanishes into thin air or fades into the mist that often settles over this cemetery at night. This cemetery is not too terribly far from where the battles of Prairie Grove, and Pea Ridge took place, both significant clashes during the Civil War. Visitors, as well as nearby residents, have claimed to hear the eerie sound of cannon fire, gunshots, and even the clashing of swords, though no such activity is present in today's world. These reports usually come at night or during foggy conditions when the atmosphere around the cemetery is most quiet. This phenomenon, often described as residual energy from the past, might be a supernatural echo of the violent and chaotic battles that took place in the region. Some paranormal enthusiasts believe that the cemetery, being the resting place for many soldiers who perished in those battles, retains the emotional and traumatic energy of the war, replaying it like a loop. Another eerie tale is that of disembodied footsteps and the sound of marching soldiers. Visitors claim to hear the rhythmic sound of boots crunching on gravel as though a column of soldiers is marching through the cemetery. This phenomenon usually occurs in the early evening or late at night. The sound sometimes fades quickly, while other times it seems to just travel through the cemetery, growing louder before disappearing altogether. These footsteps are thought to be the spirits of Confederate soldiers continuing their march in the afterlife. And then we have the cries of a young boy. In addition to the apparitions of soldiers, as well as sometimes grieving women, some visitors have reported hearing the cry of a young boy in the cemetery. This ghost is less frequently mentioned, but has been described by a few who believe it might be the spirit of a young drummer boy, or perhaps a child who died during the war years. The boy's voice is heard calling out in distress, but no physical figure is ever seen. Some speculate that the spirit is lost, perhaps seeking family members, or trapped in a state of fear and confusion from the war's violence. The cries are often faint but unmistakable, sending chills down the spines of those who hear them. The old main building on the University of Arkansas campus has a rich history and deep connection to the university's identity. Constructed between 1873 and 1875, Old Main is not only the university's oldest building, but also a hub of spooky legends that has circulated for decades. Here are just a few of the more detailed ghost stories and unsettling events tied to the building. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves unexplained footsteps. Faculty members, students, and staff who work in Old Main, particularly after hours, often describe the experience of hearing slow, deliberate footsteps echoing through the hallways, especially on the upper floors. These footsteps are described as heavy and unmistakable, but they never seem to belong to anyone present. Some people claim the sounds continue even when the building is completely locked down for the night. There's no confirmed identity for these phantom footsteps, but one popular theory is that they belong to a long-deceased professor who worked in the building during its early years. Others speculate it could be a student who tragically died on campus during their time here in Fayetteville and still is walking the hallways they once frequented. Then we have the mystery of the bell towers. Old Main's iconic twin towers are one of its most recognizable features, and they house the old university bell. In early years, the bell would ring to signal the start of classes and important campus events. However, in the mid-20th century, the bell was decommissioned and fell silent. Despite this, over the years, there have been numerous reports of people hearing a bell ringing late at night, especially during quiet, late evenings or early mornings when the campus isn't entirely still. Many speculate that the ringing of the bell could be tied to students or staff from the past, ringing one final time to remind people of their presence. One of the more chilling stories associated with Old Main involves strange sightings in the building's many windows. At night, particularly from the outside, people walking by the building have reported seeing shadowy figures or faint human-like shapes in the upper floor windows. These ghostly figures are typically described as still and staring outward as if watching the passerby. Those who attempted to get closer to investigate find that the figures soon disappear as soon as they approach the building. One popular version of the story describes a female figure believed to be a former student who is seen staring out of a window on the top floor. Some believe she may be tied to an old legend about a student who died in a tragic accident, though details of this story have been lost in time. And then finally we have the story about these weird doors inside Old Main. Many professors and staff members have reported experiencing doors that seem to lock and unlock themselves. The doors in the building, especially those leading to the stairwells and in certain offices, have been known to swing open or shut seemingly on their own. But even more unsettling is that these doors have often been found unlocked in the morning, even though staff had locked them the previous night. There are also stories of people being in rooms where the door suddenly slams shut with great force, despite no wind or human interference. Our final ghost story takes us to the Walker Stone House. The Stone House is a historic home that has developed a reputation for ghostly activity over the years. Built in 1845 by Judge David Walker, a prominent early settler and lawyer in Arkansas, this house has seen its share of history, including serving as a place of shelter during the Civil War. Its connection to Fayetteville's past and its storied architecture make it a natural site for paranormal activities. One of those is the spirit of Judge David Walker himself. One of the most well-known ghost stories associated with the Walker Stone House involves the spirit of Judge David Walker. After living in the house for many years and contributing to the development of Fayetteville, Judge Walker passed away in 1879. Some believe his spirit still lingers in the house, possibly out of a deep connection to the place he once called home. Visitors and staff members have reported seeing an apparition of an older man dressed in 19th century clothing wandering through the halls or just sitting in one of the old rooms. This figure is often described as being calm and composed, fitting with the judge's reputation as a dignified person. His ghost is said to be most often seen in rooms where he likely worked or spent some significant amount of time, especially where legal documents and books were once stored. Another commonly reported ghostly sighting involves a woman who is often seen standing near the windows of the Walker Stone house. Described as wearing a long, old-fashioned dress, she is believed to either be a family member of Judge Walker or someone who stayed in the house during its long history. The ghostly woman is most often seen late at night, appearing as a shadowy figure standing at the windows, looking out towards the street. Some who have witnessed her claim that she seems sad or sometimes just contemplative, as if waiting for someone or mourning a loss. During the Civil War, the Walker Stone House played a significant role as a shelter for both soldiers as well as townspeople. Fayetteville was near the site of many battles and skirmishes, and the house provided refuge for those seeking safety. Some of the paranormal activity in the house is believed to be tied to this period of time. People have reported seeing shadowy figures in Civil War-era clothing, and some claim to hear the sound of battle, such as gunfire or the clanking of swords, echo through the house. There are also stories of soldiers, perhaps those who died nearby or sought shelter in the house during the war, who still haunt the area. These spirits are often described as restless, moving through the house as if they are still searching for safety. And then we have an unsettling presence in the basement of the stone house. Some of the most unnerving stories come from the basement of the Walker Stone house. Visitors and workers have often described a heavy, unsettling feeling when they enter this area, as if an unseen presence is watching them. The air feels heavier, and people frequently report feeling a cold draft despite there being no windows or vents in the area. And a few have claimed to see fleeting shadowy figures in their peripheral vision while in the basement, while others say they've heard strange, unexplained noises coming from the dark spaces, the corners of the space. Though there's no clear explanation for why this basement feels so oppressive, many speculate that it may have been used for shelter during the Civil War, or could be tied to the house's long and sometimes tumultuous history. Now that we've had a chance to tour 4 of the most haunted locations in Fayetteville, Arkansas, remember you had a challenge before you. 3 of these places are truly haunted, while 1 is the creation of those here at Wandering Walks of Wonder. Remember, that challenge was for you to figure out which one of these tales was crafted by us at Wandering Walks of Wonder. Remember, our journey took us to 4 locations in Fayetteville: the Washington County Courthouse, the Confederate Cemetery, Old Main on the University of Arkansas campus, and the Walker Stone House. So we'll pause here now, let you reflect on the 4 ghostly tales you've just heard, and let you guess which one of these is a tale crafted by us here at Wandering Walks of Wonder. If you guessed the Washington County Courthouse, then you are correct. The tales told about this courthouse were made up by us here at Wandering Walks of Wonder. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that you can see more ghostly tales, walking tours, campus tours, and museum tours. And also make sure to stay safe out there. Take care now. Bye-bye.